at that point, you're not there to play it safe. Like if you're not taking risks, you're not competing.
It's empowering, I mean, anybody who's done a CrossFit workout, you finish your CrossFit workout and you're like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like a hunger for competition and like that super intense structure, routine. I still had that desire.
Listen to the way people feel and the motivations for doing the things that they did. It was like they were describing me to a T.
I'm not trying to solve everything for you, but I know that sometimes you just need somebody to listen.
Learned the most is how to fill my cup by filling others.
Welcome to the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast. Join me as I talk with passionate people about their life's failures and successes, and most importantly, what keeps them hungry for more. What up, dogs? Welcome back to another episode of the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast. I'm back with another awesome guest. I think this is the first guest that I've had on from Supertotal 3, Supertotal 2022, since the competition's had, man. We're joined by Alex Schmidt today. How you doing, Alex?
Great, Taylor. How you doing?
Well, man, I just died in the middle of a workout, but luckily I got to cut it a little bit short, minute or so I could hop on this call. Man. So Saved by the Bell kind of at 5.
I'm sure it's hot over there. I remember it was at the Supertotal meet. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course, man. Thanks for coming on. So we're just talking about it, Supertotal 2022. How long have you been training both style of lifts, Alex?
So I heard about your competition through Ben Harris. I believe he's competed at your Supertotal events before.
Yeah, 2021. He competed and won it, smashed it, turned out a lot of big lifts.
Oh, he's an animal. So I got formally acquainted with him last August at a barbell rehab method course. And I saw in his story promoting your Supertotal event probably around January or February this year. And I did a powerlifting meet last September. And then by October, I just wanted to switch gears and start learning Olympic lifts beyond the knowing how to power clean from high school football.
Right.
So I decided to switch gears towards just Olympic weightlifting from October through January. And then when I saw
2021, right? End of last year. Yeah.
Yep. So then when I saw on Ben Harris's story that there was a Supertotal event in the area, I decided to switch gears and sort of hybrid train the both of them for about 12 weeks, I think, going into your meet. And that was the most I'd ever done Supertotal training or any type of hybrid programming going into it. So roughly 12 weeks. And since the Supertotal meet, I'm still just doing Olympic weightlifting training.
Nice. So you met Ben at a barbell rehab program, like a specialty course. I know Ben's a physical therapist. What do you do for a living, Alex?
I'm currently the assistant strength conditioning coach and physical education instructor at Swarthmore College. And I'm also the head strength and conditioning coach through Alpha Training Delaware for Wilmington University's men's lacrosse team.
That's awesome. So a wide berth of working with different kind of strength and like performance athletes.
Right.
So did you tackle the training and programming for yourself on your own?
Yeah. So I originally learned that Supertotal was a thing when I started asking the question of, can you do both of these? And what is it like to train for one versus the other? How are those different? And I really got led to Juggernaut training systems.
Yeah, they do a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, and I would see I've seen like the podcast probably like 5 times, that episode with Chad Wesley Smith and Max Ada.
Yeah.
And I went and bought the Scientific Principles of Strength Training book that Chad Wesley Smith and Israel put out. But yeah, I programmed for myself doing up to that meet, and it was a really fun challenge for sure.
Yeah, so it's a lot to kind of cover when you're looking at the basic principles of both sides and how they build together and how you can stay active in between and recover, day to day.
Yeah, and what was fascinating was where they conflict with each other in trying to find a good balance where I could stimulate slower moves like the deadlift without interfering with the speed and technical qualities of like a clean.
Yeah, because I predominantly work with CrossFitters, and a big staple that's like, it kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't, is say, oh, you have a bigger deadlift, you'll have a bigger clean, right?
Right.
Did you ever feel, one's a fast move and one's a slower move by nature, did you ever feel like your deadlift pull through your clean pull off a little bit, or conversely?
So your Supertotal event was unique in that conventional deadlift was the only accepted deadlift.
Right.
And prior to that event being something I was training for, I was strictly powerlifting training for like a good 4 years in almost all squat stance or sumo stance deadlifts.
Right.
And so going into training for your Supertotal meet, my best conventional deadlift was like 290. It was atrocious. It just never felt comfortable.
Yeah.
So I don't think I had enough time to really like accumulate a lot of motor like repetition on the conventional deadlift to feel as though it interrupted clean pulls. But because I started doing Olympic weightlifting training last fall and into the winter, I got plenty of exposure to snatch pulls and clean pulls, and found that if I touch the deadlifts like every 10 days training for Supertotal, it would be enough to stimulate it, and at the same time not enough to really mess with technical ability on clean pull versus conventional deadlift.
That's awesome. That's good. So you can train both of those things. An intelligent person can put them together, maintain strength while developing speed, maintain like overall strength while developing explosive speed and power, you know?
Yeah. And like Max Ada touched on it on his Supertotal videos, both with the podcast, a couple different podcast episodes he did with Juggernaut at the time, and then like his own how to program for it. But you got to pick the sport you're worse at to prep for Supertotal. And I absolutely had way less accumulated hours doing weightlifting. So I had to do a lot of just trusting that a clean pull would still build my quads, still build my lats, and have a similar movement to a pull, and just touch on deadlift enough to know how to use my levers for conventional. But I mainly focused on weightlifting going into it, just so that it didn't feel so awkward and new, and just touched on powerlifting enough. But yeah, it really just made clean pull almost the staple for conventional deadlift.
There you go. I think Ben said a lot of similar things when he was on last year after the Supertotal. He came from a powerlifting background as well. And then, so it's like, that'll maintain as I do this. And I just need to like touch on it a little bit and keep my focus on things that I have like deficiencies in more,
right?
You know? So it makes total sense. So Alex, like, where are you from? What sports did you grow up playing?
Where I'm from is kind of a complicated question. I was born in Newark, Delaware, and lived in Delaware till I was a second grader, moved to Minnesota as a second grader, and then moved to Georgia in middle school, 6th and 7th grade, back to Minnesota for most of high school. But I did a year of high school out here in Delaware, my junior year, right around the recession of 2008. So that whole couldn't sell our house in Minnesota at the time. So after a year of going to school here, I had the choice of going back or not. We were just in that privileged position. And I enjoyed my basketball team back in Minnesota more than the one here. So I made that call, finished high school in Minnesota. I bounced around in college too. Did a year in Fargo Moorhead area in Minnesota, and a couple years in Minneapolis, did a year in Phoenix, and then I finished out here in Delaware. So a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, all over the map. So you said you played basketball, dude. So I know I've met you in person. How tall are you exactly?
6'8".
Oh man, when did you like hit your growth spurt?
Before puberty. So going into 7th grade, I was 6 feet 180, and leaving 7th grade, I was 6'2", 200.
Yeah.
And in 8th grade, I was 6'4", 230, and entering everyone else's version of high school, 9th grade, my town, it was 8 through 12. But in 9th grade, I was 6'5", 240, like going into it.
So early on, you were the tall kid.
Always, yeah. I remember breaking 5 feet at like 8 years old.
Damn. Like, did you pick basketball, or did basketball pick you?
Basketball definitely picked me, but I remember being like a kid seeing Space Jam, and like the height of Michael Jordan, and was obviously knew he was 6'6". My dad is 6'6", knew that was like a possibility. And just like as a personal identity, I always really identified with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
I was like a big roly-poly-oly football player kind of kid. And that brought aggressiveness to a game that, to the layman's eye, looked not that aggressive. I was born in 91, so like growing up, like my like sporting consciousness as it emerged, it was like Michael Jordan is the man, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa are crushing home runs, and like Shaquille O'Neal is the man. And then football was also massive. So like at the time, it was really football and baseball as a kid.
Yeah. You said your dad was tall also? Did he play sports? Do you come from like an athletic and outside kind of family?
He's got a lot of natural athletic ability. I think he probably could have taken like punting in football to a pretty high level. The guy could punt a football so high and far.
Yeah.
But he played football until he was like 14, and then he just worked.
Yeah.
Any free time he worked. So he really wasn't an athlete in that sense. He's got a lot of natural ability though. And then my mother played basketball growing up, and her dad is 6'5", and he was like he played college for TCU, Texas Christian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he still holds a rebounding record of some sort, like most rebounds in a single game, and that's like pre 3-point era. Like white pictures type basketball.
Well, you're playing like dirty ball down there, like not dirty, like negative, like dirty, like it's a lot of fight for the ball,
Yeah, no, he describes it like that for sure.
That's crazy. So you start playing ball, right? Like what position were you playing at first?
In basketball specifically?
Yeah, 7th, 8th grade.
Center always.
They put you down to 5 right away?
Oh, I've never been anything but a 5. And in football, I was never anything but a lineman. Like when football was a thing, like the intro to football, they had this black stripe tape that we'd put on your helmet if you were like over a certain weight. And I was just so beyond it. I've never had the ability to like touch the football and play with it. It was always just go over there and block.
Yeah. In those days, man, they didn't let any of the big guys like show like really athleticism or any sort of footwork, ball handling skills, none of that.
No. Same with basketball. It was get rebounds, and eventually I was taught the hook shot.
Be like Kareem. That's what everyone wanted to do. That's funny. Yeah. So how'd you feel about that? Did you want to touch the ball?
I generally didn't like basketball until I was like a teenager. It just wasn't, I didn't have the coordination everyone else had that was smaller. I didn't have the foot speed everyone else had, and I didn't know how to shoot. No one really ever taught me. So all of these like tools that everyone had to make the game fun, I didn't have that. All I had was this like roughness I knew from football. I enjoyed setting screens and boxing out and getting rebounds. But by the time I was a teenager, my best friend's dad, his name's Mike Host, my best friend Brandon Host, he started showing me post moves at like 8th grade. So he'd pull me aside from practice and he showed me how to post up on the block, how to like position yourself, get a move off to get a hook shot. And that started to open up my game. And my high school coach made me do one-handed form shooting for like an entire summer. I used to just palm it and like Shaquille O'Neal throw it at the rim. I didn't know what I was doing.
You're put a lot of pushing the ball, as they said.
Yeah. So he taught me how to shoot. And so then I developed a pretty good mid-range jump shot. And then after that, it was fun.
Yeah.
Like I was able to actually like impose my will on the game beyond blocking shots and rebounding.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very fun thing to be a part of.
That's awesome. Before it was like fun like that, you developed like a little bit more of like a center package. What kept you going back and like playing like in your early days?
I knew I was taller than everybody.
Yeah.
Just like something I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And like figured at some point I'd be good at it. And there was a couple of different like exit ramps where I like really pondered leaving because I wasn't really playing. And it was frustrating to be like 6'4" in 8th grade and have to just like sit on the bench most of the time.
Not be a star, yeah.
And it didn't have to be a star, but I needed to feel some semblance of like I'm improving, I'm learning, I'm playing, I'm like involved in this. Didn't really feel that way. But a couple different times football coaches were trying to pull me over to wrestling. And then like basketball coach, the head coach who taught me how to shoot, like 2 different times had to, argue with those coaches, argue with like the JV and 8th grade coaches, pull me aside going like, you cannot quit. You can't, like, you're going to be so good one day. It's like all going to come together. It just takes longer than everybody else.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what ended up happening.
That's good. That's good that you have like positive reinforcements like that, right? Like getting mentors and stuff makes you want to like give back to the game in the same way.
Absolutely. Especially now where like my role in the game is dwindling and evolving, and there's just a whole skill set a lot of people don't know how to do in the game.
Yeah, you watch that kind of going away from the outside, just like you said, like dwindle away. So like what's that like when you're the tall guy, people just assume that you play basketball, right? Like that you should be like good at basketball. Because I've definitely been in the position where you see a big guy walking in and you're like, it's almost like a small type thing, like, oh, you must play basketball. How did that feel to have people say that shit to you all the time?
I'm proud to have put in all the work that I did to get to a place to where I can like own it and be like, yeah, I did. And I was the ball, and like we could ball right now and I'd get buckets, and like that's a fun feeling. When I was younger, it was like a lot of hopes and expectations to live up to that like psychologically made participating in the game harder than it needed to be.
I bet.
It's like other people that were smaller, it's just like, oh cool, you play basketball, it's great. And there was no like huge shoes to like go and fill, no expectation. So it's like an empty slate. But for me, like being a junior in high school, coming out to Delaware, being 6'8" already, and everyone going like, so are you catching alley-oops? Are you LeBron James? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, because that era's taken off by that time,
Yeah. So like 6'8" meant like springing off the floor like LeBron, and it was a lot of expectations to fill, for sure.
That's crazy, dude. So I was just going to say, did you consider yourself, we'll kind of bring this up to today later on, but did you consider yourself a competitive person at that time period? Like, especially once you'd like develop the skill, you talked about imposing your will.
Yeah. Yep. I would say being gigantic the whole way through created a like type of competitiveness that's different than other people's, and the expectations on myself. And I'm the one that beats myself, even if you beat me. So there was just never like a gritty, I don't know, interpersonal type of competitiveness or like an excessive need to win. It was like, if I won, that was expected because I had this unique advantage that no one else had. And if I didn't, it's because I didn't like properly use that advantage. So it became a very reclusive, introspective type of competitiveness where like the time that I spent to get good at basketball, it was 1-on-0. It was like hook shots by myself.
Yeah.
It was jump shots by myself. It was like test tube basketball in that way.
Damn.
And it was time in the weight room a lot of times by myself. So it was never like Michael Jordan's excessive need to win kind of competitiveness, but definitely competitive.
Yeah. It was kind of like, this is my task. This is like what I work at. I want to be the best of my abilities at this,
Yeah. And like coaches and teammates place such a high bar of what I could live up to, and if I put in the work, that I wanted to get a college scholarship. That was the big goal all through high school, was like, I'm getting my school paid for sports. And it was never imposed on my expectations by parents at all. That's the other thing too. It was just like, they wanted me to do multiple sports and at least like walk around as a big guy and not be like my dad, who was like, yeah, I'm big, but no, I did not play basketball.
Yeah.
Or football even. So it was a lot of self-imposed expectation too at a certain point,
Yeah. Was that tough on you, like to impose your own sort of like expectations like that high?
Yeah, definitely. In retrospect, I think that made it in a lot of ways a more challenging endeavor to get good and to enjoy it and to trust the process. Because when you have that big of an expectation for yourself in a really finite window of time, there's like a simultaneous panic all the time. Like, why am I not there yet? And there's so few people that are like me in terms of size. When I'm looking around at them and they're getting Division I offers and they are catching those alley-oops, it's like, what do I got to do? Because I should be like them. And that's just terrible trap to get in. Like, I'm not like them. They're not like me either. So yeah, it definitely made it harder.
Yeah, I hear that. So did you just carry that burden by yourself, or did you have like a circle of people that you kind of went to talk about those things?
So my best friend in high school, who I spent some time with in college too, we were teammates in college as well. He was a smaller guy growing up, but my mom went to high school with him as well. And his dad went from like 5'6" as a freshman to like 6'3" graduating. And so he had the same sort of growth chart and eventually got to like 6'4" or 5, but was a guard. And so we did a lot of training together, skill wise and in the weight room. And I had a guy in the grade below me who right now is 6'9" that was on my team. And I'd say those two guys, just like working out with them and training with them, it certainly, like, we were in that journey together, as unique as it was for us individually, but we all kind of had a similar struggle.
It's good. It's good to have like a group of people that are like struggling with you, right? You know,
Yeah.
struggle, it builds community, it builds compassion for each other.
Definitely. And I was fortunate to have like an athletic department and coaching staff that really tried to instill the hygiene of work and getting better at the sport. And we had a unique situation in our high school where our male sports were losers. We lost all the time. In my football career in high school, we hadn't won a game in like 5 years. So I had an entire like varsity losing season as a 10th grader going against seniors. And our basketball program was majority losses for many years.
Yeah.
And we got to 13-12 my senior year. And it was like the first winning season in like over 20 years.
Yeah.
And so there was always like a chip on our shoulder too, of like not wanting to accept that as our fate.
Yeah. It's proving yourself more. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not going to get better without training. That was just bottom line. That was the expectation.
Damn, bro, that's tough. But speaking of training, you were saying to us earlier, you were training already, like lifting weights in the high school. Like, when did that start for you, and how did you get introduced to the barbell? Did you guys have like lifting coaches back then?
We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach on staff. It was run by our football coaches, but they, between my 8th grade and 9th grade year, implemented a summer strength and conditioning program that was mandatory for varsity sports.
Nice.
And they got other coaches to buy into it. Just like, if you aren't willing to put in work in the summer, you don't deserve to be playing in the season in the fall or the spring or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was summer between 8th and 9th grade. And it was a few football coaches. And it was just like, here's how you barbell squat. Here's how you do a clean. Here's how you bench press. Here's how you overhead press, stiff leg deadlift, walking lunges. It was like a lot of basic stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end of each one, there was some form of conditioning out on the track. Sometimes that was like sprinting and hurdles. Sometimes it was like a little more strongman, like carrying sandbags and running around here. And
that's cool.
And we would, at the beginning of the summer, like do a few test numbers. Our big 3 was squat, clean, and bench press, and then like time the mile. And we never did the mile until the end of summer after doing it at the beginning. And like, we'd be crushing our mile times because we just got stronger. So like that definitely set a foundation for loving it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, the strength stuff later on. At that time period, I know you said you wanted to go to college. You already had that plan. Did you have any idea of what you wanted to do with your life before you started lifting?
I remember, so we had a science teacher that took a Polaroid picture of us first day of 8th grade, and we had to put on a note card like what kind of jobs we wanted to work in or what kind of things we wanted to study. And he didn't give it back to us until our last week of senior year of high school. So you kept it in a file cabinet. And so I have that in my yearbook now. And it's funny how the things I said I was interested in then, it just was persistent. So I found psychology to be really interesting. I was very into creative writing and into music, and I was into sports. And
wow.
I got into lifting between 8th and 9th grade, and I was like a weight room warrior all through high school most of the time.
Nice.
And I found out exercise science was a thing when looking at college majors at 10th grade. That was a thing that they wanted to start doing. And so I was pretty committed all through high school. That's why I wanted to go study.
Yeah.
So I did. I studied exercise science. So my intro school year, it was bio because it was a liberal arts, but then did exercise science for a couple of years at Augsburg, a year of exercise science at Arizona State, and then trying to come home and finish school at University of Delaware. I got denied from their exercise science program.
Damn.
Just situation wise, I needed to finish there, like just be a Delaware local, get the in-state tuition, live with my family. Like that just had to happen. And so UD, when you're applying there, you can put in a backup major. And I did get accepted as a psych major. So I finished out doing psychology, but like at heart, loved exercise science. Like to this day, like it's a shame in a way that I don't have an exercise science degree. And at the same time, I'm grateful that I don't, because I like have a bigger breadth of things to work with as a strength coach than everyone else who's been like tunnel vision exercise science from the jump.
The only people that have been doing physical sciences since then, you know, and you kind of expanded your realm. It's funny to hear you say the things you were interested in, because it sounds so similar to me. I mean, and when I was in high school, those are like my favorite classes. I took 2 years of creative writing. I thought I wanted to be a writer at first.
That's awesome.
So do you feel like you're able to let your creative side out through programming and working with individuals?
Yeah, it's both leveraging like a lot of science and trying to work backwards a lot of ways. Just like, here's the end goal. And a lot of times it's with the calendar, and then just like figuring out like how long should each phase of training be, what kind of exercise selection works with them, and what works with like their injury history. And like, yeah, it feels like a blend of art and science for sure. And it's super fun to just be able to lay that out and lay out the progression and then watch it get implemented and watch it work. And then it's also fun to troubleshoot it when it's not working and figuring out like what kind of modifications I have to make, what kind of step back do we have to take if things are starting to get aggravated. But like, it's incredibly fun. And I realized, so I graduated with a psych degree, and one thing I really loved doing psychology was laboratory research. So I was involved in a neuroscience lab in college. And then when I graduated, I was a researcher that managed 4 different government funded projects related to early childhood education.
Oh, dope.
So I was like managing a bunch of data sets and like overseeing PhDs, like analyzing that data and doing all that stuff. And so that was fun, but not really for me. And a lot of the time I was spending at my desk at work was like pulling up the internet search browser to search, like, how do you train a golfer? What kind of strength training does a golfer need, and why? And like, why isn't it like a football player or a power player? Like, why is that different? What are their needs? Why do they need it? How would you like plan it out? How would you progress it? And at some point I'm like reflecting to myself, why do I need to know this? Like, it's not for me. I'm not golfing. Like, and it was just because I like this.
Yeah.
I'm asking this question for me and not for anybody else. And in my head at the same time, it's like, you're going to need to know this someday. And it's like, nobody's thinking that unless they're going to go coach.
Yeah.
Like, and it just like answered the question for myself. So after that job ended, I went and got my NASM. I actually had my NASM before that, renewed my NASM, and just started personal training, and then pandemic hit. So I started personal training like December 2019. And then 4 months later, like the whole world shut down.
That's the worst. Oh
man, it was wild. But I had to like make some serious choices when the whole world was shut down, and I doubled down on this is my thing, and I would love to do it. And I think I'd be great at it. It became
chasing your passion.
Yeah. Went and got my CSCS in the middle of it. I mean, I studied my ass off, setting kitchen timers for like 25 minutes, rest 5 minutes. After 4 of them, do a half-hour break. And I like word for word read every chapter that I needed to know for that strength conditioning test. Yeah.
So you left your full-time job and you went personal training full-time right before the shutdowns?
I couldn't get full-time work as a personal trainer, so it was part-time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just trying to make it work.
But before that, did you get to accomplish your goal, playing sports in college? What happened with that?
Yeah, so I did. Out of high school, I played for Concordia Moorhead in for a year. But right before the first game, I jumped up in a scrimmage in practice, and someone pushed me from behind. I'm trying to block someone's shot, and this finger hits the bottom of the backboard and bent this way, and I broke my hand.
Damn.
Yeah. So I got a medical gray shirt, which is like the Division III red shirt. You can only get it for medical reasons. And then transferred to Augsburg, which is in Minneapolis. Found out that as a suburb kid, I would much rather be in the city than 4 hours away from it. And so I did a year of playing for them. And the highlight of that whole season for me was getting to play half the game in a exhibition versus Division I Houston Baptist. We were Division III, and we won. We beat a D1 team. That was just nuts. Yeah, it was the coolest experience. At the end of that season, I couldn't sit in a chair below like a quarter squat.
Damn.
I just couldn't. So like I found out through our athletic training office that I needed hip surgeries, and that I had hip impingement so bad that it was like causing me to not be able to like get into a squat.
This is your freshman year?
Technically, yeah, but it was my second year of college.
That gray shirt year, yeah.
Yeah. So the year after my first year in college, yeah. By the end of that season, so that whole season I had like plantar fasciitis, a nearly broken cuboid, which is like the outside of your foot right here.
Yeah.
And so I was like putting on a boot to go to class and live my life. And then it was practice time. Take that boot off, put on your basketball shoe and play. And then like by the end of the season, with managing that foot, running funny, and then just like an entire lifetime's worth of being abnormally sized and genetically predisposed to having that issue.
Yeah.
Needed surgeries. So I didn't play the next year. I stepped away from the team because to be on an operating table knowing I'm not going to be able to run for like a year, and I don't hear from coaches or players like, so sorry this is happening to you or whatever. I was like, I'm not cared for here. I'm a disposable resource.
Yeah.
And that like, to me, just didn't sit well. So I walked away, but I did like a full season of like actually playing college basketball with like a broken foot. And that was really the most of what my college career was.
Damn, what was it like to walk away? Did you like have like big regrets, or did you feel like, well, I got to go play basketball and there's other things I'm passionate about?
A lot of regrets, but I knew the situation I was in was not one I wanted to stay in. And I also knew that like, you know, I was this athlete studying exercise science, which was cool. And it was something I wanted to do, but there was like other elements of my own identity that like, I felt like I hadn't nourished because of athletic career. And there was like a lingering question of like, can I get through college without like study table and people trying to hold me accountable all over the place? Like, am I a good student? Am I like smart enough to do this?
Yeah.
And that question got to be answered and fulfilled, and like made me feel like a more holistic human. But like definitely felt and my coach even told me that he thought I had like all-American potential. Definitely felt like potential was like left on the table to be good at the game.
Yeah.
I was really sick of feeling injured, and definitely didn't want to be the guy who had like transferred to 3 different schools playing Division III basketball, trying to like make that career work. It was like, you know, the ship's probably sailed.
I heard that. So what did your training and exercise look like after that? You have to like rehab your hips and all that. What did you do like after the surgery is over?
Morning after, I was on a bike.
Damn.
They had me on a bike, like using the good leg to pedal with the surgery leg in a pedal, just passively moving. And I, with insurance and all that, had to do like 6 months of rehab going in. And it's just all glute training, like all these different types of glute exercises. And then I probably did 9 months of rehab after the surgeries. And it was like once or twice a week. And then on my own, like every day. And it was glute training. And like the 2 tests to like get me back to being able to like return to the floor, I had to be able to single leg bridge to a 60 BPM metronome for 2 minutes. 60 reps or 2 time under tension. And then same thing with the single leg squat to like parallel. But they kind of gave me some leeway because like my levers are so long that like, it's hard to stay on tempo doing a single leg squat. for that many reps.
For sure.
And I got to like 40, but they wanted me to get to like 60. But that was what rehab was trying to get those 2 tests to pass.
Right.
So after that, like I probably did not really train for a good couple of years. It was just like, let me go to school, party, do all the like things that the non-athletic people do. And after a while, I hated it. And I got out of shape to like, I think I blew up to like 285. I was like 240 playing basketball. So I was like, all right. And started lifting again. And at some point was like, now I got fresh hips and I'm able to move in ways that I couldn't before. And in high school, I had to step away from football because of a lumbar spine injury. I had a doctor tell me you can't play anymore. So I have a L5 that's slipping forward and cracked.
Yeah.
It's pretty common, especially amongst like gymnasts and offensive linemen, and probably should not have ended my football career. I don't regret that it did, but like I think the doctor kind of overreacted on
the diagnosis.
Yeah. And that just ended up being like a death sentence to my football career. And after that point, it was like, I'm not going to barbell squat anymore. I'll do goblet squats. I'll leg press.
What year of high school was that?
It was right before 11th grade. So like 11th grade, 12th grade, I would sprint, I'd lunge, single leg stuff, like did all those kind of things. And I stopped doing like cleans and back squats. So fast forward to 22, I'm a year out of hip surgery and I have all this like range of motion and I'm less afraid of my back getting any worse. Like it's not going to get worse. It's just what it is. So I started like trying to work on that again on like a real goal of like, it probably isn't that bad. I'll be fine. And that certainly seemed to accelerate, like getting stronger more than like some dumbbells. So I got back into lifting after like a 2-year break at 22.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about when did you get back on the basketball court? Like you would play recreationally?
22, 23. Yeah. It took time. And when I finally got back to it, like a lot of strength that I had before was gone. A lot of like the speed and agility that I had was gone. And it could have come back. Like I could have worked on it specifically and gotten back, but it felt like, man, it's been a couple of years since I was able to do that or do this, and I can't anymore. But it was weird to like feel that my mind had gotten better at the game.
Yeah.
And I was like more efficient with like decision making and what I would do, but I was like a worse athlete for sure.
Yeah. And some people won't understand like kind of what you need with that, like and how that goes away. But was your passion for the game still there? Did you enjoy when you were first able to go play pickup again?
Yeah. So when I moved back to Delaware between age 22 and 23, I went to Delaware Tech for a semester. I was like just trying to get back on my feet because I kind of had some stuff happen in Arizona. And when I moved back, I walked into the coach's office at Del Tech, knowing I still had NJCAA eligibility and that my NCAA career had nothing to do with it. And on the spot, like had a little conversation with him and walked out to the court and just kind of showed him like footwork wise, here's like what I could do for you. Here's what I'm good at. He offered me a scholarship on the spot. And so I played with them and like practiced, did training camp. And right before the first game, like day before, coach comes out and he called me 6'8". That was my name. He was like, 6'8", you got to talk. And at Del Tech, they signed me up for anatomy and physiology when I took that at Arizona State because I didn't pass anatomy and physiology 2. So they had me take A&P 1 again at Del Tech because theirs was different than Arizona State's.
Okay.
Well, when it came down to it, NJCAA didn't consider that credits towards eligibility because it was a repeat class.
Yeah.
And it was too late for me to sign up for another class. And so I was ruled ineligible. And he was like, well, maybe we can try again next year. And I'm like, dude, I'm 23 years old. I'm trying to get on with my life in school. So it like, I had a little bit of a Michael Jordan with the Wizards kind of thing, came back for a little bit and it just like ended as quickly as it started. And I just kept it moving. But I'd say like the passion was gone in terms of like willingness to be in that like tunnel vision mode for the game. It just wasn't there anymore.
This sucks, man. Sometimes circumstance can strike and just really like fuck you over, you know?
Yeah. Oh man. And throughout my career, I've known a lot of people that are around my size, and I've followed them throughout their whole career from like meeting in high school at some point. And like, none of us really had any situation that really panned out and made us an animal, but like it at least got us a foot in the door to those opportunities. And so like that part was interesting, that like the guys that I knew that went D1 hardly played. Guys I knew that like we're going to go D1 here, they either sat on the bench or like transferred to D2 after that. And it was just like, nobody really had this like trajectory that we like hoped or planned for or trained for.
Yeah. So back up to like more present day, right?
Yeah.
When you first started personal training, had you ever coached or trained before? Did you feel comfortable right away, like helping people, I guess I should say?
Yeah. So, at like 25, I found Power Plant Gym in Aston. Yeah, so it's run by Brian and Katie Feely. Like when I discovered it, it was the most random discovery. I was like on Google because I heard San Francisco had this gym called Power Plant Fitness. It was like a 420 friendly gym. And like Power Plant Gym outside of Philly, like was like second thing that pulled up.
Yeah.
So I found out about it. I was like, they got powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, and strongman all in one. Like, I got to go see this. This just sounds so cool. And so I learned about it. And then like within a year, my family agreed to like get me some training there. Like, they're like, yeah, we'll help pay for it. And I messaged Katie and I was like, I got all these injuries. I like did all these sports. Who like has the knowledge, like as a physical therapist or whatever, to like do it? And so there was a guy that trained there, Mike Buscaglia, and he trained me for like a good year and a half. My fiance and me, we both trained with him, and he was like very knowledgeable on like corrective exercise, on, you know, how I got to work around these problems and like still effectively train. And at the same time, he was mentoring me. It wasn't just coaching, like show up, do the workouts, here's what you need, you're getting better, see you next time. It was like, in the future when you're doing this, here's how you got to like coach people to do that. And so like I had a whole like mentoring experience with him.
That's awesome.
And he was always like referring me to resources on like how to program, how to like screen for movement deficiencies. So I like had this whole hands-on almost apprenticeship, I would say, with him. So that going into personal training, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I mean, I haven't done it for very long, but I didn't feel overwhelmed by like, how do I, you know, get someone to listen to me? Or how do I like fix a squat when it looks ugly, or someone's saying this hurts or it feels uncomfortable? What do I do about it? Like those are questions like I already had a toolbox on like working with.
That's awesome. So what was, you feel good at the beginning. What's the catalyst to take the next step and get your CSCS and start working like with college sports teams?
So between Mike Buscaglia, he eventually like
that was 2019
off.
Or 20 earlier.
Yeah, that was like 2017, 16, 17. So he eventually was just like, you know, you've learned everything that like I could possibly teach you. You come here and like execute your programming, and like I hardly have to coach you anymore.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel right to him to keep charging us. So he kind of like discharged us and was like, you can handle it from here. And so like I started powerlifting coaching for myself, and that's it. And I eventually had like someone else handle some powerlifting programming for me, Bobby Duranda. And so I like was learning in that way. And that really like prompted me to want to go personal train. But at the same time, it was like, I enjoy the competitive element of this. I played college sports. I can like think about how other sports work and like modify strength training based on like basketball versus powerlifting or whatever. And I wanted to do this full time, and fitness full time seemed very like difficult to break into. Like I wanted the job security of like a salary, healthcare, like the whole grown up job, big boy job.
Yeah.
And like the whole personal training in like my area, it was very much like it's either part-time or it's very like sales incentive based. And I'm like learning this from a scientific point of view of just like, I'm not trying to incentivize myself to train you more than you need. I'm not trying to like be this super salesman of supplements or anything else. Like I want to be someone that like can answer your questions in the most like objective, I'm just trying to help you reach your goals kind of way. What kind of job is that? It's a strength conditioning coach. It's like, I'm not a personal trainer, I'm a strength coach. So like going into pandemic was like knowing what personal training jobs were available around me, and like just didn't seem like a really worthwhile endeavor, at least, you know, out of commercial gyms. So I thought also like, I don't look like personal trainers. Like, there's a look, you know, like they're cleaner cut. They look a little corporate. They're a bit like leaner, and I'm like huge. And I like am continuously getting bigger and stronger from like real hardcore barbell training. And I was like,
it's funny. I didn't even like really think about that. I completely agree with that. That you do look like a strength and conditioning coach. I saw this meme the other day that was like every high school and college strength sports is usually around. They said 5'11" with bald head and beard. Right? Yeah. And you fit 3 out of 4 of those things.
Yeah, only the height and size, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. I remember Greg Panora, I'll send it to you after this. He put up a meme of like everybody like started powerlifting or strength coaching because of a guy that looks like this, and he had this like sun hat, and he's like chunky and bearded, and he's like talking about how that type of chungus is like yelling at you doing cleans.
That's funny.
But like that's what it is. Like I'm not a personal trainer. There was a point where I was working for Lifetime in King of Prussia. Right before it opened up. And so I like, being from Minnesota, know very intimately, like Lifetime was awesome. And I wanted to work there after college. Yeah. And so when it was going to be here, I like went out of my way to go introduce myself. Hey, I'm about to graduate college. And they're like, okay, go work in fold towels. So they put me in the back immediately. And there was another guy who worked front desk. And both of us were studying for NASM at the same time, and both of us passed it around the same time, and we both interviewed for the personal training job. He got it, and like I got like probably the worst job interview I've ever had. Just in terms of like dealing with the people interviewing me, it was horrible. Like they did not want me. Yeah. And I was pissed for a while, but then I like sat and thought like a lot of that is like perception. And a lot of that was just like, I don't look like what they want. And I don't know if I necessarily like help sell more personal training. Like, it's intimidating in that way.
To me, it was too clean, which is kind of like a funny thing because cleanliness is important, but it was too clean for the style of coaching that I wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen like what you do at CrossFit KOP, and like you're like well tailored for that environment.
Yeah.
The environment of Lifetime as a consumer, it's fantastic. It's a great place to be. Super expensive, but like you're getting what you pay for there in a lot of ways. But like as a coach, like would I have wanted to be there? Like in that sense, like for a while I would like go look at David Watson's page and just be like, man, what does he have that I don't? What did I do wrong there? And then like as time like kept moving on, and as I like started coming into my own as a coach, I'm not reflecting on that anymore. Instead, I'm like, he belongs there. He looks perfect to run those like fitness classes right in the middle of a basketball court. And like, there's all sorts of Katies and Karens in there, like doing all
that's not for me. Yeah.
No. And like, he couldn't get into my shoes and like command a whole weight room full of college athletes and like have to be like, I mean, everyone can if you're there and you're finally there, but like the way I've like grown into that role, like you couldn't do that like I could.
Yeah.
And so I've like, he's much more of a concept now than like a person I actually like, forget that guy.
Correct. I looked at it very similar. Outside of that
event, by the way, was awesome.
Yeah, and I hope we can make it even bigger next year. Those are the type of things that like I was interested in doing, and I knew that Lifetime would never like allow me to accomplish that. I really appreciate that. I think it went really well. It went even better than I was expected as far as the logistics of it. Because if anyone's ever been to a powerlifting meet or a weightlifting meet, they can both kind of drag, and putting it together can make it. My idea was, what's funny? We talked about Max Aida at the beginning of it. I remember way back when seeing him and James Townsend, who worked with him, and reading the books and the articles that they were trying to popularize Supertotal a little bit more. I was like, wow, we should do this. And I played it as a max out band. And I was like, we should do it competition style. And then slowly, that was the third year that I've run it. And I feel like logistically it was the best year that it's been,
Yeah. I mean, with the like in growing into my role as a strength coach, I'm like now learning, because going into it, it was whatever goal or like thing I'm trying to do, here's the optimal, here's like the academic answer. But like now that I'm like doing it in practice, the one thing that's left out in that academic answer is like what your facilities and like population you're dealing with as a constraint. And like you worked so well with like your facility and like the people participating.
Yeah.
Like, the setup, the format. And I thought the playlists were lit. That was so awesome. That was
an important part, because really the Supertotal vibe to me was putting together the seriousness and professionalism of a real meet, weightlifting, powerlifting, with their federations backing, and the excitement of like a college weight room,
Yeah, definitely had that.
Those were the two important factors to me. Like, okay, how can we have this be competitive and serious, professional, like something that has the big federations backing it, but also the fun of everyone's seen the videos of one dude in the middle of a big circle about to hit a 350 clean, 400 clean, and like it may not look the best, but it's like everyone's going hype for him. So let's build those two things together. And next year, I just want to make those two things happen even more.
Do you think Supertotal is going to keep growing?
At KOP, my Supertotal, that's why I call it the Supertotal. It's definitely going to grow. I've already had plans. I have the layout kind of planned out for next year. I would love to, with this facility here, like you were talking about, there's certain space constraint, and I think that we maximized what we could do with it last year. Now it's like, how can I do it even better, get even more divisions involved, like separated out, and still have it, because it ran like an hour longer than I wanted it to, but still I think everyone, the feedback that I've got so far was no one was waiting around too long between each event and each lift.
No, it was, that I noticed that too. Like it was just enough to recover, get some snacks,
and then warm up again.
Perfect.
So that is important to me, the time and respecting people's time. So if I could make it grow in size as well as competitiveness, but also keep it at a good time, then that it's going to be bigger next year. Awesome. I think it'll be a good time, man. If we could get some things, I have a couple of some secrets planned for next year that I think will make it even more eventful, man.
Do you think about keeping the rule structure the same?
Rule structure, last year at 2021, I did people got 3 misses. So like, just like this year, you had the full 12 minutes, and I took away that this year. I think I would open it up to like sumo. I didn't say that I said that people could low bar, right? And I might change the bench press a little bit. And I'll release this on here with you. What I'd like to do is make it a bit that's backed by one of the federations, if not both. Like have so that it could be like an official powerlifting and weightlifting meet. So your totals can go qualify you for the next thing. And with that would come some rules that we'd have to adhere to. And I'd have to like sit down and talk with back and forth. I did a little bit of it this year with USAW and then USAPL. It's just like I said, I want to maintain those two things from before: the excitement of a college weight room and the professionalism of a federation. And if I could add in an actual back end, then that would be amazing.
Yeah, because that'd be, in that way, it would be similar to like 5-bar showdown. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Correct. Or like Dane out of Garage, they have like strength weekend or something like that, where they do powerlifting and weightlifting on 2 separate days. So I would love to, so it kind of ups the stakes, but at the same time, I want to keep the fun of it, right? I don't want to sacrifice that.
So funny thing on why I do USPA instead of USAPL, but I originally was trying to compete my first powerlifting meet, USAPL, and I'm a medical cannabis patient. And like I have been for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I like reached out to USAPL, did like the therapeutic use exemption form, got like doctors to sign on it, like went through all the channels on just like, yo, if you pop me at this meet for THC, like here's a reason, and like please give me an exemption so I can compete. And they were like, acknowledge that your doctors said this and that your state is fine with you using it, but we're not, and you're banned for like 2 years. I was like placed on ban for like coming out and going like, please accommodate. And so USPA, they go by like WADA, and USAW is the same way. They're not going to ban you if they like drug test
PhD,
you. Yeah, no. So like ever since then, I was just like, forget USAPL. Like it's USPA also has like a more inclusive policy for some other stuff like transgender and things. So like it would be super sick for that Supertotal event to have like federation backing, but like I don't know if I would do it if USAPL was involved, because like they already know about like what I'm about, and like I'm not about to like taper off of all that so I can like I don't think I'm like at the caliber lifter that would ever like reach a national level of competitiveness with weightlifting. I'm not going to write it out, but it's more of like I would like to experience that competitive environment, and probably self-coach. So like I would probably on my own be like going to the score table and making selections and like but I want to like go play the game and like try it. That motivates me. And then like taking a break from that and going back to powerlifting again with like this broader range of skills and like qualities that I've worked on in about like a year's time, just doing weightlifting stuff. And then going back and retesting at a Supertotal, like, so going into this year, it was like, this is gonna be a Supertotal year. And it started off with your meet. And it was like, the real plan before knowing that meet existed was trying to do 2 sports in 1 year kind of thing, where like it would have been the first half of the year weightlifting, switch to powerlifting, repeat. And it ended up being like hybrid training for your meet and then back to just working on weightlifting and trying to give myself more time to get skilled and adapted to that sport than making this year both sports. So right now it's weightlifting and like post a total. I can go there and make my lifts, post a total, and like feel more confident executing weightlifting programming, like troubleshooting it for myself and like conceptualizing how I could do that for other people. But in the future, definitely want to just rotate between the two in a year, every year.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, dude. I'd love to see like you do a local meet, like weightlifting, like end of the year, the Supertotal February next year, and then try to wrap it up with like a powerlifting meet like a few months after that, and like compare numbers, see like how things go. Yeah,
that's the plan. And like I really respond in the powerlifting sense. I respond really well to volume, so I like would like to put a good 6-month gap from that Supertotal before I even go step on a platform, so I could just go put on the size again, like go do it. But I like there are numbers I would love to get lifetime wise, and like to just say I've cleaned 300 would be cool. My best clean ever was at your meet. I did 260 and I just couldn't finish the jerk. I like got it a little bit off balance. I squat jerk. As you can see, the ceilings in here are low, so I can't split jerk. And like with the hip surgeries, like getting into a lunge position nowadays, like my lateral hips are just shot. I heard that. So like I just squat jerking's nice, but like a lifetime goal, clean and potentially clean and jerk 400 would be just insane for me. And deadlifting around 600 is like a lifetime goal.
Yeah, love those. I just finally crossed over the 500 mark for the deadlift like a few weeks ago. I was like, fuck yeah, time to go. At the Supertotal, I competed at my Supertotal last year, 2021, and I pulled like 490 on the deadlift. And I was just below the back squat. I like hit like 395, somewhere around there.
Sure.
I don't know how I was able to put together like all pretty much max effort lifts like on that day.
Yeah, that's hard.
Somehow. It's real difficult, But Alex, dude, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a great episode. I think it's been I love having talks like this. I haven't been able to talk to like another strength coach in a while,
Oh, it's a great time. I would BS with you anytime, even off the record. away from the show, I would definitely do it again. So
oh yeah, dude. I'd love to talk about like some of the weightlifting stuff too, man. Talk about like plans for the week, plans that you have like coming up for that. I'd love to see you out at a weightlifting meet.
Yeah, I'm thinking about signing up for the Garage Strength one in August.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. They have weightlifting one day, powerlifting on the next day. Power Fest, I think it's called.
Yeah, I saw that and didn't realize it because I was just looking at the weightlifting calendar and like found that, and then saw that was weightlifting and powerlifting.
Yeah,
and like the Supertotaler in me would love to do both of them on that weekend, but like
I'd
the
save it.
Supertotaler in me at the same time wanted to just like do one and then the other. It's like I'm just gonna stick with weightlifting that time, and some other time I'll do Supertotal again, likely at yours. But that's probably the one I'm gonna do.
Oh yeah, maybe I can make it out to that, dude. Because Power Fest is always a good time. I've been to it like 2 years before. It's great to see like people come out. It's not a more lax event. It's just a more fun event than just a regular Olympic weightlifting meet. You know,
that's cool. That's good to know. And that's run by
Dane
Ghostface Miller, right? Yeah.
Dane Miller out at Garage. He runs a Garage Strength at their training team at the facility. It's really dope.
I think that's where Ben Harris interned for a while. Circle it all. It's wild. Small world.
Yes,
I get that the Earth-Fed muscle supplements. I'm on a subscription. I love his creatine.
Same. Actually, I need to get a refill of that now. I was just thinking that like right before we hopped on the call.
Yeah, right there with you.
That so get strong again. But all right, dogs. It's been another great episode. Go check out Alex Schmidt, Deadlifts and Dunks on Instagram. We'll get some more stuff linked up in the show notes.
Yep, and check out the movie Hustle. I'm in there for 10 seconds. Big country.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I saw your post about that the other day. Dude, we'll have to talk about that after the episode. Yep. Dogs, peace.